Get your dirty hands off my servers, you little criminal! Do you have any idea what those machines are worth? More than your entire family will see in a lifetime! Blackstone's voice echoed through Nextech's server room at 2:47 a.m. His face was red with rage as he towered over 16-year-old Jamal. I'm sorry, sir, I was just what? Stealing data? Sabotaging my company? Blackstone grabbed Jamal's shoulder, yanking him away from the computer. I knew we shouldn't have let people like you near our systems. Please, Mr. Blackstone, I wasn't stealing anything. Jamal's voice was soft, respectful. His laptop screen glowed behind him, displaying green text no one bothered to read. Critical breach detected. Patch successful. Security! Blackstone shouted. We've got a thief! Employees gathered in the hallway. Phones appeared. Cameras started recording. Maria's cleaning cart sat forgotten in the corner. Have you ever been so wrong about someone that it destroyed everything you thought you knew about recognizing talent? Nextech Industries dominated the 47th floor of a gleaming San Francisco skyscraper. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city's tech district, where billion-dollar deals happened daily. The building's marble lobby displayed awards, patents, and photographs of Richard Blackstone shaking hands with presidents and tech moguls. Blackstone had built this empire from nothing. His company created AI-driven security systems for Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and military contractors. $2 billion in annual revenue. Success that bred dangerous arrogance and deep-seated prejudice. And now he stood face-to-face with what he saw as his worst nightmare. Search him thoroughly, Blackstone commanded as security guards arrived. Check every pocket, every device. These people always hide stolen property somewhere. Jamal stood motionless, hands raised respectfully. Sir, I can explain what I was doing. Explain what? How have you been sneaking around my building for months like some kind of urban terrorist? Blackstone's voice dripped with venomous contempt. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know what your kind are really capable of when given access? Maria rushed into the server room, still wearing her faded cleaning uniform, panic written across her face. Please, Mr. Blackstone. My son wasn't doing anything wrong. He's a good boy. Your son? Blackstone laughed with cruel satisfaction. Of course. The cleaning lady's ghetto kid. I should have connected the dots sooner. This is exactly what happens when we get soft on background checks and let these people into secure areas. He pulled out his platinum iPhone, typing furiously with expensive manicured fingers. Within minutes, he'd sent a scathing email to the cleaning company's CEO. Terminate your contract with Maria Santos immediately. I will not tolerate having potential criminals and their welfare families wandering our premises after hours. Consider this your final warning about proper employee screening. The security guards methodically searched Jamal, finding his phone, a small electronics toolkit, and a USB drive. What's on this device? Blackstone grabbed the USB drive like it contained nuclear launch codes. Industrial secrets? Client lists? Financial records? Nothing illegal, sir. Just some school programming notes and homework files. School notes? Blackstone's voice rose to a near shout. Programming notes about our security systems? Our client data? You've been planning this elaborate operation for months, haven't you? Who's paying you? Which foreign government? China? Russia? North Korea? Word spread through the building like wildfire. Employees abandoned their workstations, gathering on multiple floors and peering through glass conference room walls. Social media posts started appearing immediately across platforms. Teenage hacker caught red-handed at Nextech. The CEO personally exposes cyber criminals. This is what happens when you trust the wrong people with access. But other voices pushed back with equal force and growing anger. Another innocent black kid was criminalized for existing while smart. Where's the actual evidence of wrongdoing? This looks like straight-up old-school racism from a privileged billionaire. Hashtag black tech talent being destroyed by racist assumptions. Within 2 hours, hashtag Nextech scandal and hashtag justice. for Jamal were both trending nationally, creating a social media firestorm. Blackstone called an emergency meeting with his entire security team and department heads. The glass conference room filled quickly as word spread that their CEO had personally caught a teenage data thief in the most sensitive area of their building. "Pull every single piece of surveillance footage from the past 3 months," he ordered with military precision. "I want to see everywhere this little criminal has been, everything his thieving hands have touched, every system he's accessed." Multiple security monitors filled with time-stamped videos. Jamal near computer terminals in break rooms. Jamal in server corridors with his laptop. Jamal sitting at workstations after hours. The visual evidence seemed overwhelming. "Look at this systematic, calculated pattern." Blackstone pointed aggressively at the screens. "He's been methodically chasing different areas for weeks. This wasn't random teenage curiosity. This was sophisticated, premeditated industrial espionage." His head of security, David Carter, a veteran with 20 years of corporate experience, studied the footage carefully. "Sir, he's always accompanied by his mother during her scheduled cleaning shifts. The timestamps match perfectly with her official work rounds." "So what?" Blackstone's face reddened with indignation. "That's absolutely perfect cover for a sophisticated criminal operation. Use the innocent-looking cleaning lady as a front, while her son systematically steals millions in proprietary technology and classified government data." Chen hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "Sir, most of the footage actually shows him doing homework assignments and helping his mother carry heavy cleaning supplies." Blackstone slammed his fist on the conference table, making coffee cups jump and spill. "Don't you dare tell me what I'm seeing with my own educated eyes. This street punk has been infiltrating our most secure systems for months. Look at this concrete evidence." He pointed dramatically to server diagnostic logs displayed across multiple wall-mounted screens. Unauthorized system restarts, unexpected configuration changes, files moved without permission, network access at all hours of the night. The digital evidence looked absolutely damning. Someone had definitely been accessing their systems extensively and making significant changes. Maria stood outside the conference room, begging through tears. "Please, Mr. Blackstone, I desperately need this job. My family depends on this work for rent and food. Jamal is truly a good boy with good grades. He would never steal anything from anyone." "A good boy?" Blackstone opened the conference room door wide, ensuring his voice carried across the entire floor for maximum humiliation. "Good boys from decent families don't hack into billion-dollar corporations. Good boys don't compromise sensitive national security information." "National security?" Maria's voice broke completely. "We handle classified government contracts worth hundreds of millions, lady. Defense Department cybersecurity, Homeland Security infrastructure, NASA satellite communications. Your criminal son could have accessed information that literally puts American military lives at risk overseas. This isn't simple petty theft. This is potential federal treason." The accusation hit Maria like a devastating physical blow. She staggered backward, grabbing the wall for support, her cleaning supplies scattering across the polished floor. Every employee on the floor had stopped working entirely now. Computer keyboards fell silent. Phone calls ended abruptly. This wasn't just typical office drama anymore. This was a career-destroying, life-changing federal criminal crisis. Blackstone's executive assistant rushed over with her tablet, face pale with concern. "Sir, the story's everywhere already. CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC picked it up. Local news trucks are parking outside right now. Twitter and TikTok are absolutely exploding with videos." "Absolutely perfect." Blackstone straightened his $1,000 Italian tie with visible satisfaction. "Let the whole world see exactly what happens when someone tries to steal from Richard Blackstone. Let them see what these people really do when you give them undeserved opportunities." His personal attorney arrived within the hour, expensive briefcase in hand and expression professionally grim. "Richard, we need to discuss pressing serious federal charges immediately." If any classified government data was accessed or compromised, this automatically becomes a national security issue. File everything possible. Federal charges, state charges, civil lawsuits. Blackstone's eyes gleamed. I want this kid in juvenile detention tonight and his mother permanently blacklisted from every cleaning company in California. Maria collapsed into a lobby chair, sobbing uncontrollably. 3 exhausting months of double night shifts to keep food on the table. 3 months of bringing Jamal along because childcare cost more than she earned. 3 months of believing that honest work and personal dignity would eventually create real opportunities for her family. Now her brilliant son faced federal terrorism charges. Jamal sat calmly in the security office, somehow maintaining composure despite everything collapsing around them. Mom, I promise you with all my heart, everything's going to be okay. How can you possibly say that, baby? Maria whispered through devastating tears. They're calling you a terrorist on television. A terrorist. My smart, sweet, innocent boy. Outside on the street, news vans lined up like military vehicles preparing for battle. Professional reporters set up cameras and satellite equipment. The developing story had everything viewers craved. Corporate intrigue, explosive racial tension, classic David versus Goliath drama, and serious national security implications. Social media platforms exploded with competing polarized narratives. #Justice for Jamal versus #Protect Nextech. #Black kids deserve justice versus #Corporate security matters. #Racism in tech versus #National security first. The national division was immediate, brutal, and unforgiving. But nobody was asking the single most important question that would completely change everything in mere hours. If Jamal really was systematically hacking and sabotaging their computer systems for 3 solid months, why were Nextech's security performance metrics, system stability ratings, and operational efficiency scores better than they had been in over 2 years? Stay with me, because what happens next will completely shatter everything you think you know about judging character, intelligence, and talent based on appearance and assumptions. 4 years earlier, in a cramped Oakland apartment, 12-year-old Jamal sat cross-legged on a worn carpet beside his father's workspace. Electronics covered every surface. Computer parts, radio components, circuit boards, and tangled cables created an organized chaos that only David Santos understood completely. David Santos had served 8 years as a Navy electronics technician before everything changed. Afghanistan. Improvised explosive devices. A convoy that never made it home. Now he worked nights at an electronics repair shop, trying to support his family on a fraction of his military salary. But every evening, he transformed their tiny back room into a classroom for his son. See this motherboard, Jamal? David lifted a damaged laptop, pointing to the intricate green circuitry. It's exactly like a neighborhood. Every component is a house where different families live. Every connection is a street where information travels back and forth. Jamal leaned closer, fascinated by the microscopic world his father revealed. When traffic stops flowing through a neighborhood, you don't blame all the families living there, David continued patiently. You find the broken bridge, the damaged street, and you fix what's actually causing the problem. This became their evening ritual. Father and son, hunched over broken electronics, learning together. Listen first, judge never. Fix what's broken, David would repeat like a sacred prayer. Every machine has a story to tell if you're patient enough to hear it. Every problem has a solution if you look past the surface. These words became the foundation of everything Jamal would later accomplish. David taught him to diagnose problems through sound patterns, the whirring of a struggling hard drive, the irregular clicking of a failing fan, the subtle electrical hum that revealed power supply issues. Close your eyes, son. What do you hear? Jamal would listen intently, learning to identify dozens of different mechanical signatures. Good. Now tell me what's wrong and how we fix it. By age 13, Jamal could disassemble and rebuild almost any electronic device. He understood circuit logic, programming basics, and system architecture better than most high school students understood basic math. Then David deployed again. Afghanistan was calling experienced technicians back for one final tour. "Keep learning while I'm gone," he told Jamal. "Keep fixing things. Keep listening to what broken systems are trying to tell you." David never came home. Roadside bomb. Instant death. Military honors and a folded flag that couldn't fill the empty space he left behind. Maria worked double shifts to pay rent. Day job at a factory, night cleaning at office buildings. 4 hours of sleep became normal. Survival became the only priority. But Jamal honored his father's memory by continuing to learn. Online programming tutorials, YouTube electronics courses, library computers when their internet got disconnected. He fixed neighbors' computers for lunch money, repaired smartphones for classmates. Word spread quietly through their Oakland neighborhood that Maria Santos' boy could resurrect dead electronics. By 15, he wrote code in 6 programming languages. He understood network architecture, cybersecurity principles, and system vulnerabilities that college students struggled with. Maria noticed her son's exceptional abilities, but couldn't afford computer camps or advanced education. Every dollar went toward basic survival. She made a difficult decision. She would bring Jamal to her night cleaning jobs, let him see successful corporate environments, let him dream bigger than their circumstances allowed. "Maybe if you see what success looks like," she told him, "you'll find a way to build it for yourself." For 3 months, Jamal accompanied his mother to Nextech Industries. He did homework in break rooms, helped carry heavy supplies, and stayed invisible while observing a world of unlimited resources and cutting-edge technology. But he also noticed something troubling. 3 weeks ago, he overheard Richard Blackstone bragging to investors during a late-night conference call. "Our security systems are absolutely unhackable. We've invested millions in the most advanced cybersecurity infrastructure money can buy." That night, curiosity got the better of him. Using the break room Wi-Fi, Jamal spent 2 hours quietly scanning Nextech's network architecture. What he discovered horrified him. 17 critical security vulnerabilities, outdated patches that should have been installed months earlier, firewall configurations that a high school student could breach, database access points protected by laughably weak passwords. The unhackable system was actually a cybersecurity disaster waiting to happen. Jamal faced an impossible choice: report the vulnerabilities and risk being dismissed as a poor black kid who couldn't possibly understand corporate cybersecurity, or quietly fix the problems himself and hope nobody noticed the improvements. He chose the path his father taught him. Listen first, judge never, fix what's broken. For 3 weeks, he systematically strengthened Nextech's security during his mother's cleaning shifts. He closed access points, installed security patches, updated firewall rules, and eliminated vulnerabilities one by one. He worked invisibly, leaving no trace except dramatically improved system performance. The work challenged every skill his father had taught him: electronic troubleshooting, logical problem-solving, pattern recognition, most importantly, the patience to understand complex systems before attempting repairs. Each night, Jamal carried his father's old Navy electronics manual. The pages were worn soft from years of use, filled with David's handwritten notes and diagrams. Now they contained Jamal's additions, new techniques, modern applications of old principles. Listen first, judge never, fix what's broken, he whispered each night before beginning his work. But Jamal knew the risks. A poor black teenager claiming to understand cybersecurity better than a billionaire's professional team would never be believed. Better to work quietly, protect the systems, and hope his improvements would speak for themselves. He never imagined that his anonymous acts of service would be interpreted as criminal sabotage. He never expected that fixing broken systems would be seen as breaking them. His father's motto had guided him toward helping others. Now that same principle might destroy everything his family had left. 24 hours after the confrontation, downtown San Francisco looked like a war zone. News trucks lined the street outside Nextech Industries. Protesters gathered on both sides of the building entrance. Police barriers kept the crowds separated but couldn't contain the electric tension crackling through the air. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stepped out of her black sedan at exactly 9 a.m., briefcase in hand. At 52, she commanded respect across the entire cybersecurity industry. Former NSA analyst, MIT professor, author of the definitive textbook on corporate data protection. Her expert testimony had decided billion-dollar lawsuits and sent hackers to federal prison. Richard Blackstone waited in the marble lobby, surrounded by lawyers, security personnel, and executives. His confidence had only grown overnight as social media battles raged and news coverage amplified his narrative. "Dr. Rodriguez, thank you for coming on such short notice." He greeted her with calculated charm. "This situation requires someone of your caliber to expose the truth." Rodriguez studied the scene carefully. Camera crews setting up equipment, employees gathering on multiple floors to watch through glass walls, protesters chanting outside. "This is quite a circus, Mr. Blackstone." "That's what happens when national security gets compromised by street criminals," he replied loudly, ensuring nearby microphones captured every word. "But you'll prove exactly what this kid has done to our systems." Maria and Jamal sat on a bench near the security desk, looking small and vulnerable amid the corporate power surrounding them. Maria's eyes were red from crying. Jamal remained eerily calm, his father's electronics manual clutched in his hands. Rodriguez approached them directly, ignoring Blackstone's surprised expression. "You must be Jamal," she said quietly. "I'm Dr. Elena Rodriguez." "Yes, ma'am. I know who you are." Jamal stood respectfully. "I've read your book on network security architecture. Chapter 12 about defensive programming was brilliant." Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. Not many teenagers knew her academic work. "Have you really? What did you think about the vulnerability assessment protocols I outlined?" "They're solid for traditional corporate environments," Jamal answered carefully. "But they assume attackers will use conventional entry points. Modern threats require more adaptive defenses." Interesting perspective. Rodriguez studied his face intently. Something about this young man didn't fit the criminal narrative at all. Blackstone interrupted aggressively. "Don't let him manipulate you with fake technical knowledge. These people are expert manipulators when they get caught." "These people?" Rodriguez's voice carried a sharp edge. "What exactly do you mean by that, Mr. Blackstone?" "You know what I mean." He backpedaled slightly. "Career criminals start young in certain communities." Rodriguez had heard enough casual racism in her career to recognize it immediately. Her expression hardened. "Mr. Blackstone, let's establish some ground rules. I conduct investigations based on evidence, not assumptions about communities. If you want my professional opinion, you'll let me work without commentary." She turned back to Jamal. "Son, I need to understand something. Everyone's focused on whether you were stealing data, but I've been reviewing your company's security metrics from the past 3 months. She pulled out a tablet showing various performance graphs. Your systems are running significantly better than they have in 2 years. Faster response times, fewer glitches, improved stability across all platforms. Jamal's eyes widened slightly. Someone had actually been paying attention to system performance. If someone's been in your systems, Rodriguez continued, they've been improving them. I can tell when networks are being attacked versus when they're being optimized. Blackstone stepped forward angrily. That's impossible. Our systems were fine before this criminal started tampering with them. Actually, they weren't, Rodriguez replied flatly. I ran preliminary scans last night. You currently have 0 critical vulnerabilities. Most companies your size average 15 to 20 ongoing security risks. She looked directly at Jamal. Someone with extremely advanced skills has been systematically strengthening your cybersecurity infrastructure. The question is, who? The lobby fell completely silent. Cameras focused on this unexpected development. "Jamal," Rodriguez said gently, "I've been doing this for 25 years. I can tell when someone's been damaging systems versus repairing them. Which one were you doing?" Jamal glanced at his mother, then at the crowd of executives, reporters, and cameras surrounding them. Everything his family had left depended on this moment. "Ma'am, 3 weeks ago your systems had 17 critical vulnerabilities that could have been exploited by any competent hacker," he said clearly. "Now they have 0. I can show you exactly what was broken and how I fixed each problem." Gasps echoed through the lobby. Blackstone's face went white. "That's impossible," he sputtered. "Our security team runs constant diagnostics. We would have known about any vulnerabilities." Rodriguez pulled up diagnostic reports on her tablet. "Mr. Blackstone, when did your security team last run a comprehensive vulnerability assessment?" "Every month. They assured me our systems were perfectly secure." "These logs show your last full security scan was 8 months ago." Rodriguez's voice carried professional disappointment. "You've been operating with false confidence about your cybersecurity posture." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. If Jamal was telling the truth, he hadn't been attacking Nextech's systems. He'd been protecting them. "Prove it," Blackstone demanded desperately. "If this kid knows anything about cybersecurity, let him prove it right here, right now." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "That's exactly what we're going to do." She gestured toward a workstation set up in the lobby. "Jamal, I'm going to give you a controlled test. I've prepared a laptop with a deliberately introduced security vulnerability. If you're telling the truth about your abilities, fix it." She handed him a laptop. "You have exactly 10 minutes. Everyone will watch. All the cameras will record. No tricks, no help, no internet access." Jamal took the laptop with steady hands. "What kind of vulnerability should I expect?" "The kind that gets companies hacked every day," Rodriguez replied. "Multiple attack vectors. If you really understand cybersecurity, you'll find them all." The entire lobby gathered around the workstation. Employees pressed against glass walls on upper floors. News cameras focused on Jamal's hands as he opened the laptop and began typing. The challenge was public, recorded, and absolutely crucial. Blackstone watched nervously. His entire narrative depended on proving Jamal was a criminal, not a cybersecurity prodigy. Maria prayed silently. Her son's entire future hung in the balance. Dr. Rodriguez observed with professional curiosity. In her experience, real cybersecurity expertise was extremely rare, especially in teenagers without formal training. 10 minutes starts now," she announced. The lobby fell silent except for the soft clicking of keyboard keys and the distant sound of protesters outside. Jamal's fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced precision, his father's training guiding every keystroke. Listen first, judge never. Fix what's broken. Everything he'd learned, everything his father taught him, everything he'd practiced during those quiet nights at Nextech led to this single moment of public verification. The countdown began. 9 minutes remaining. Discovery 1. The Vulnerability Matrix. 3 minutes into the 10-minute challenge, Jamal's fingers flew across the keyboard with surgical precision. The laptop screen filled with code as he navigated through system files like he'd designed them himself. "Found it," he announced quietly. "SQL injection vulnerability in the login authentication module." Dr. Rodriguez leaned closer, studying his work. "Show me the attack vector." Jamal turned the screen toward the crowd. "See this input field? The code doesn't properly sanitize user data. An attacker could inject malicious SQL commands here, bypass password authentication, and gain administrative access." He opened a notepad application and began typing sample attack code. "If I entered this string instead of a normal password, the system would think I'm the administrator." Several employees in the crowd gasped. They recognized the code structure, but had never seen someone explain it so clearly. "But that's not all," Jamal continued, his voice growing more confident. "While looking for the planted vulnerability, I found 6 additional security flaws your test system has." Blackstone stepped forward aggressively. "That's impossible. Dr. Rodriguez prepared a controlled test environment." "Actually," Rodriguez interjected, her professional curiosity piqued, "I used one of our standard training laptops." "Jamal, what else did you find?" Jamal pulled up a network diagram he'd quickly sketched. "The wireless driver has an unpatched buffer overflow weakness. See how the memory allocation isn't properly bounded? An attacker could inject code here, escalate privileges there, and gain root access through this pathway." He pointed to different areas of his diagram as he spoke. "The firewall configuration allows outbound connections on ports that should be blocked. The email client stores passwords in plain text instead of encrypted format. The operating system hasn't received security updates in 4 months." Rodriguez ran his findings through her own diagnostic software in real time. Her expression shifted from skepticism to amazement. "Every single vulnerability he identified is correct," she announced to the crowd. "These are professional-grade security assessments that would typically take my team hours to complete." She turned back to Jamal. "Where did you learn vulnerability assessment techniques this advanced?" "My father taught me to listen to what broken systems are trying to tell you," Jamal replied simply. "Electronic devices communicate through patterns. Network vulnerabilities follow similar logic. But this level of analysis requires specialized training," Rodriguez pressed. "I've been reading cybersecurity research papers since I was 14, Jamal explained. MIT OpenCourseWare, SANS Institute white papers, NIST security frameworks. When you can't afford college courses, you teach yourself." The crowd buzzed with surprised murmurs. Several Nextech employees pulled out phones, fact-checking his claims about self-directed learning. Rodriguez watched Jamal code a comprehensive patch for the SQL injection vulnerability, incorporating modern defensive programming techniques. "This solution is more elegant than what most of my graduate students produce." "How is this possible?" Blackstone demanded, his confident narrative crumbling. "He's just a kid from the streets." "Intelligence doesn't require zip codes, Mr. Blackstone," Rodriguez replied sharply. "It requires curiosity and dedication." Discovery 2. The hardware mastery. Desperate to discredit Jamal, Blackstone pointed toward a malfunctioning server rack in the corner of the lobby. "Fine. Maybe he memorized some coding tricks from the internet. But that server has been driving our best technicians crazy for a month. Random shutdowns, overheating. If he's so talented, let him fix actual hardware." Jamal approached the server cautiously, placing his ear near the cooling fans. He listened intently for 30 seconds, eyes closed in concentration. "Thermal throttling caused by improper heatsink mounting," he announced. "The CPU is overheating because the cooling system isn't making proper contact. Probably happened during recent maintenance when someone over-torqued the mounting screws." Blackstone laughed mockingly. "You diagnosed a complex server issue by listening to it? That's ridiculous." "May I open the case?" Jamal asked Dr. Rodriguez politely. "Go ahead. Everyone's watching." Jamal removed the server's side panel with practiced efficiency. He pointed to microscopic metal shavings around the heatsink assembly. "See these metal particles? They indicate the mounting bracket was forced into position instead of properly aligned." He carefully examined the heatsink connection. "The bracket is slightly bent here, creating a gap between the CPU and the cooling surface. No direct contact means heat can't transfer efficiently." Maria watched her son work with professional confidence she'd never seen before. This was David's training coming to life through their son's hands. "The thermal paste has also degraded," Jamal continued his diagnosis. "It's supposed to be smooth and consistent, but it's dried and cracked. That creates air pockets that block heat transfer." Dr. Rodriguez verified his observations with a small flashlight. "His assessment is completely accurate. How did you identify these issues so quickly?" "My father taught me that electronic components make specific sounds when they're struggling," Jamal explained while carefully removing the damaged heatsink. Fans working harder than normal, hard drives clicking irregularly, power supplies humming at wrong frequencies. He cleaned the old thermal paste with precise movements. Every mechanical failure has an audio signature if you know how to listen. Blackstone watched nervously as Jamal realigned the heatsink mounting system and applied fresh thermal paste with the technique of an experienced technician. "Where did you get professional tools?" Blackstone demanded, noticing Jamal's small toolkit. "I bought them with money from fixing neighbors' computers," Jamal replied simply. "Good tools last longer than cheap ones." He reassembled the server connection, ensuring proper alignment and appropriate mounting pressure. The trick is firm contact without over-tightening. You want thermal transfer without mechanical stress. When he powered the server back on, the diagnostic display immediately showed normal operating temperatures. The random shutdown errors disappeared. The cooling fans reduced to quiet, efficient operation. "System temperature dropped 23%, Rodriguez announced, checking the diagnostic readings. "This server is now running within optimal parameters." She turned to address Blackstone and the assembled crowd. "I've watched senior engineers with decades of experience miss hardware diagnoses like that." Jamal identified the root cause through audio analysis alone, then performed textbook repair procedures. "My father served 8 years as a Navy electronics technician," Jamal said quietly. "He taught me that every broken machine tells you exactly how to fix it if you're patient enough to listen." The crowd fell silent, processing this revelation. The teenager they'd assumed was a criminal had just demonstrated professional-level technical expertise. Blackstone's face grew red with frustration. Every assumption about Jamal was proving catastrophically wrong. Discovery 3. The Security Breach Prevention. Dr. Rodriguez's forensic software finished its comprehensive scan of Nextech's network systems. What appeared on her screen made her face go pale with shock. "Mr. Blackstone," she said slowly, "we need to discuss something immediately. Your systems were compromised." "Compromised?" Blackstone's voice cracked. "You mean by him?" "No, by professional hackers. 3 weeks ago." Rodriguez pulled up detailed logs on her tablet. "Someone's been inside your network for 8 months. Systematically stealing financial data, client information, and proprietary technology." The lobby erupted in confused murmurs. Employees exchanged worried glances. "That's impossible," Blackstone protested. "Our security systems are state-of-the-art. We invest millions in cybersecurity." Rodriguez showed him the evidence. "These attack signatures match a known Eastern European crime syndicate called Midnight Wolf. They've been active for 2 years, targeting technology companies exactly like yours." She scrolled through stolen data logs. Social security numbers, bank account information, trade secrets, government contract details. They've extracted 47 gigabytes of sensitive information over 8 months. "How much is that worth?" Maria asked, not understanding the technical implications. "Approximately $12 million on the dark web," Rodriguez replied grimly. "Enough to destroy your company's reputation and trigger federal investigations." Blackstone stared at the evidence, his world collapsing. "But you said the breach was stopped 3 weeks ago." "Exactly." Rodriguez pulled up timeline data. "The hackers lost all access precisely 3 weeks ago. They've been desperately trying to regain entry ever since, but every attack vector has been systematically blocked." She turned to look at Jamal directly. "The timeline matches perfectly with when you started your security repairs." Jamal nodded slowly. "I found their back doors during my first night scanning the network. They'd been moving through your systems like they owned them." "Show me," Rodriguez demanded. Jamal took her tablet and pulled up network architecture diagrams. "They entered through this outdated firewall port, escalated privileges here, and established persistent access through this vulnerability in your email server." He traced digital pathways with his finger. "They were exfiltrating data every Tuesday night when system monitoring was lightest. small batches to avoid detection algorithms. Rodriguez verified his analysis against her forensic data. Every single pathway he's describing matches our evidence. How did you detect such sophisticated intrusion techniques? The network traffic patterns were wrong, Jamal explained. Data was moving at times when no legitimate users were online. Files were being accessed in sequences that didn't match normal business workflows. So you stopped them? Rodriguez asked. I closed their access points one by one without alerting them to my presence, Jamal confirmed. If they knew someone was watching, they might have activated destructive malware before leaving. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Jamal hadn't been attacking Nextech's systems. He'd been defending them from actual cyber criminals. Rodriguez made a phone call on speaker. Agent Carter, this is Dr. Rodriguez. I'm at Nextech Industries with urgent information about the Midnight Wolf investigation. FBI agent Sarah Carter's voice filled the lobby. Dr. Rodriguez, what do you have? The hackers lost access to their target 3 weeks ago. We've found who stopped them. Outstanding. We've been wondering what cut off their operations. Please send us everything immediately. Blackstone slumped against the wall, the full weight of his mistake crushing down on him. He'd accused his company's savior of being its destroyer. The teenager he'd publicly humiliated as a terrorist had actually prevented the largest corporate data breach of the year. Everything he thought he knew about crime, talent, and racial assumptions lay in ruins around him. Dr. Rodriguez dialed FBI agent Sarah Carter on speakerphone, her hands slightly trembling as the gravity of the situation became clear. The lobby fell into absolute silence. 200 people held their breath. Camera operators zoomed in. This moment would either vindicate or destroy a 16-year-old boy's entire future. Agent Carter, I'm at Nextech Industries conducting a cybersecurity investigation, Rodriguez said clearly. We've discovered that your Midnight Wolf case has a critical development. Agent Carter's voice crackled through the speaker system. Dr. Rodriguez, we've been tracking Midnight Wolf for over 2 years. What kind of development? 3 weeks ago, they suddenly lost complete access to Nextech systems. Every backdoor closed, every vulnerability patched. They've been desperately trying to regain entry ever since, but hitting walls at every turn. That's correct. We couldn't figure out what stopped them. Our monitoring showed their operations went completely dark on September 15th. Rodriguez looked directly at Jamal. We found who cut them off, a 16-year-old who detected their presence and systematically eliminated their access. The silence in the lobby became suffocating. Employees on upper floors pressed against windows. News cameras captured every word. Agent Carter, Rodriguez continued, Midnight Wolf had extracted 47 gigabytes of classified data over 8 months. Financial records, social security numbers, government contract details, proprietary technology. Without intervention, this would have been the largest corporate data breach of the year. Blackstone's face went completely white. His expensive suit suddenly looked too big for his shrinking frame. Dr. Rodriguez, you're telling me a teenager stopped a sophisticated international cybercrime operation? Agent Carter's voice carried professional skepticism mixed with amazement. That's exactly what I'm telling you. Jamal Santos, son of deceased Navy electronics technician David Santos, single-handedly prevented $12 million in stolen data from reaching the dark web. Maria gasped audibly, her hand flying to cover her mouth. Tears streamed down her face as the magnitude of her son's heroism became clear. The boy who was accused of hacking actually saved the company from hackers, Rodriguez announced to the crowd. Agent Carter's voice filled the lobby again. Dr. Rodriguez, Midnight Wolf represents one of the most technically sophisticated crime syndicates we've ever encountered. Their victims include Fortune 100 companies, government agencies, and military contractors. If this teenager really disrupted their operations, he prevented a national security incident. The words hit like physical blows. National security incident. Prevented by the same young man Richard Blackstone had publicly branded a terrorist. Agent Carter, we're sending you complete forensic data, Rodriguez said. timeline analysis, vulnerability assessments, attack vector documentation. Everything confirms that Jamal's security repairs directly caused Midnight Wolf to lose access. Outstanding work. We'll need to interview the young man immediately. He may have intelligence that helps us track these criminals across multiple jurisdictions. Rodriguez ended the call and turned to face the assembled crowd. Her professional credibility, built over 25 years, stood behind every word she spoke. Ladies and gentlemen, I've investigated cybersecurity incidents across 6 continents. I've testified in federal court about network intrusions involving billions of dollars. I've never encountered defensive cybersecurity work this sophisticated, performed by someone without formal training. Her voice carried absolute conviction. Jamal Santos didn't compromise Nextech's systems. He created a layered security architecture more advanced than most Fortune 500 companies employ. He didn't steal data. He prevented data theft that would have bankrupted this company and triggered federal investigations. The transformation in the lobby was immediate and overwhelming. Employees who had been recording Jamal's arrest now witnessed his complete vindication. News crews pivoted their entire narrative in real time. Social media sentiment flipped instantly from condemnation to celebration. Blackstone stood frozen, watching his world collapse. Every racist assumption, every prejudiced conclusion, every arrogant accusation lay in ruins. The street criminal he'd humiliated on camera had actually saved his billion-dollar empire. "Mr. Blackstone," Rodriguez said with professional ice in her voice, "you nearly prosecuted the person who saved your company. Without Jamal's intervention, Midnight Wolf would have continued stealing data until they destroyed you completely." The sensory details of the moment burned themselves into everyone's memory. The lobby's air conditioning seemed to stop working as hundreds of people stood in stunned silence. The only sounds were the gentle humming of servers that Jamal had secured and the distant traffic from San Francisco streets far below. Maria walked slowly toward her son, disbelief and pride warring across her face. The cleaning lady who had begged for her job hours earlier now stood beside the teenager who had prevented a national security crisis. Jamal remained seated at the workstation, his father's electronics manual still clutched in his hands. David Santos would have been so proud. "Listen first. Judge never. Fix what's broken," Jamal whispered to himself, repeating his father's motto one more time. The broken thing he'd fixed wasn't just Nextech's cybersecurity. He'd exposed the broken assumptions about talent, intelligence, and worth that people carry based on skin color and economic circumstances. The lobby erupted into applause that started slow and built into thunderous recognition. Employees cheered. News anchors scrambled to reframe their reports. Social media exploded with #Jamal the Hero hashtags. But the person who needed to speak most remained silent. Richard Blackstone faced the cameras, his reputation, his assumptions, and his conscience, knowing the whole world was watching his response to being catastrophically wrong about everything. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice carrying professional authority. "Jamal, I'm making you an offer I've never made to anyone without a college degree." The lobby fell silent. "Full scholarship to MIT's cybersecurity program. Additionally, my consulting firm will hire you part-time at $75 per hour." Maria's knees nearly buckled. $75 per hour was more than both her jobs combined. "You'll work remotely. Flexible hours around school," Rodriguez continued. "Real cybersecurity consulting for Fortune 500 clients." Blackstone knew cameras were rolling, knew his reputation hung by a thread. His voice came out strained. "Nextech is establishing a $2 million scholarship fund for underprivileged students pursuing cybersecurity," he announced mechanically. "Jamal will be our first recipient, with a guaranteed paid internship." Rodriguez's phone buzzed constantly. Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, they all want to meet with you. Within hours, the story spread everywhere. Teen genius saves company that accused him. Recruitment emails flooded in. Scholarship offers from Stanford, Carnegie Mellon, Caltech. But the most important victory was personal. Jamal handed his mother the scholarship paperwork. "Mom, you can quit your second job. You can finally sleep." Maria Santos, who had worked 16-hour days for years, who had begged not to lose her cleaning job hours earlier, now held documents that would transform their future. "Your father would be so proud," she whispered. The cleaning cart would never be necessary again. Richard Blackstone's nightmare was just beginning. Within 6 hours, Nextech's stock plummeted 14%. Investors dumped shares as news spread globally. The market had zero tolerance for companies that nearly prosecuted their own saviors. The board called an emergency meeting that evening. Blackstone sat alone, facing 12 furious directors on video screens. "Richard, explain how you missed an 8-month data breach while accusing a teenager of terrorism," board member Patricia Carter demanded. "The security team assured me—" "Your security team hasn't run proper scans in 8 months, interrupted Chairman Robert Hayes. "We're facing federal investigations and complete reputational destruction." 3 major clients canceled contracts immediately. Boeing, J.P. Morgan, and the Department of Defense cited concerns about leadership judgment and cybersecurity competence. Social media became Blackstone's personal hell. The video of his racist accusations went viral with 23 million views. "Listen first, Judge Never" trended worldwide, inspired by Jamal's father's motto. "This is why diversity matters in tech," tweeted Tesla's CEO. "Talent has no color, but bias is expensive." Professional consequences mounted daily. TechCrunch canceled his keynote speech. Venture capital firms removed him from advisory boards. His World Economic Forum invitation disappeared. Maria Santos filed a defamation lawsuit within a week, represented pro bono by California's most prominent civil rights attorney. The cleaning company sued for breach of contract and discriminatory termination. Dr. Rodriguez published a devastating paper in the Journal of Cybersecurity, How Corporate Bias Nearly Enabled a National Security Crisis. The academic article became required reading at business schools nationwide. Mr. Blackstone's assumptions nearly cost his company $12 million and enabled international cyber criminals, she wrote. This demonstrates how prejudice creates dangerous security blind spots. Other tech companies immediately audited their systems, discovering similar vulnerabilities. Many hired teenagers from underrepresented communities as consultants, seeking fresh cybersecurity perspectives. 6 months later, Blackstone faced a dramatically different reality. His net worth dropped 40%. Personal friends stopped returning calls. Country club memberships were quietly terminated. Social invitations disappeared entirely. The federal investigation resulted in mandatory sensitivity training, court-ordered diversity hiring quotas, and $2 million in fines. But most significantly, Blackstone was forced to confront himself. Months of therapy and diversity training slowly chipped away at lifetime prejudices. During a televised apology 6 months later, he made an unexpected admission. "I realize my assumptions about Jamal weren't based on evidence. They were based on fear and prejudice I didn't know I carried. He didn't just save my company from hackers. He forced me to examine toxic biases that were destroying my ability to recognize talent." The industry response created lasting change. Tech boot camps established scholarships for underrepresented students. Major corporations revised hiring practices to seek unconventional talent. Maria's nonprofit received millions in corporate funding. Nextech's new diversity program became a Harvard Business School case study. Company security improved dramatically by recruiting talent based on ability rather than background. Blackstone never fully recovered his previous status, but became an advocate for inclusive hiring. His humiliation became education, his prejudice became progress. The justice was reasonable and complete. Consequences without destruction. Learning without revenge. Growth through accountability. The teenager he'd tried to criminalize had ultimately saved more than company data. Jamal had saved Blackstone from himself. 6 months later, Jamal Santos thrived at MIT while working part-time with Dr. Rodriguez's cybersecurity firm. He developed 3 revolutionary security protocols now protecting Fortune 500 companies worldwide. His innovations saved businesses millions in potential breach costs. Maria ran her nonprofit from a bright San Francisco office, connecting working parents' children with educational opportunities. She'd helped over 200 families access resources their talents deserved. Jamal still carried his father's worn electronics manual, now filled with his own innovations and discoveries. He lived by the same guiding principle that had changed everything. Listen first, judge never. Fix what's broken. Every day, extraordinary talent walks among us in the most unexpected places. The question isn't whether that talent exists, it's whether we're wise enough to recognize it before our prejudices blind us to genius. If it were you in Jamal's position, would you have stayed silent or spoken up about the security flaws? Sharp-eyed viewers will notice a crucial detail at minute 2:15 that reveals the real truth from the very beginning. Hit subscribe to Black Soul Stories if this story reminded you that potential has no address, no color, and no prerequisites, only unlimited possibility waiting to be discovered.